Thanks for joining us on Northwest Leaders and Legends, the show where we explore the ideas, the people, and the initiatives powering the Northwest's economy and strengthening the communities we share. I'm your host, Jill Walters, and together we'll dig into the stories and insights shaping our region's growth with our very own Leaders and Legends. Whether you're listening on the radio, watching our videos, or tuning in through our podcast, we're glad you're here. So settle in as we dive into the forces driving our region forward. On today's episode of Northwest Leaders and Legends, we are back in Southwest Washington with a leader at the center of one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Washington. Ridgefield's very own Mayor Matt Cole is joining us here in person and in our new studio. Mayor Cole, we are just thrilled that you are here to join us today.
Hi, Jill, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we are delighted that you are here. We are going to kick off some of our questions to get us a little centered on the city of Ridgefield. So if you would, for listeners that are joining us outside of Southwest Washington or the state and even our new international audience, would you help get us acquainted with Ridgefield and paint a picture of your city and where it's located, who calls it home, and what's driving Ridgefield's rise as the fastest growing city in Washington?
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, Ridgefield is centered right here in Southwest Washington, just north of Vancouver. And, it's been a burgeoning community for a good 10, 15 years. I mean, we've really been hustling and bustling for a while. Traditionally, it's been a farming community. We started with prunes and potatoes. That's why our mascot is the Spudder, is either that or the prune, and we went with the Spud. I think that was a better choice. Yes. So and really have really just kind of like evolved like from a little pocket community into our really own unique identity as a city, as a fast growing city.
What's driving Ridgefield's rise as the fastest growing city in Washington state?
That's a good question. So there's a lot that Ridgefield has to offer, and this is one of the best parts about my role as mayor is getting to talk about those types of things. But really, Ridgefield is situated just perfectly in the larger metro area. And if you look around our metro area, especially Portland and Vancouver, there's a lot of communities that are largely built out. I mean, they don't have capacity to grow a lot further. Ridgefield happens to be that, centered right along Interstate 5. It's 25 minutes from Portland Airport. It's got this beautiful, beautiful 5,000-acre wildlife refuge, views of the mountains. So people are just, I think, drawn to that because of the practicality and the beauty.
Right. And just 15,000 residents and growing.
Actually, more than that. I think we're actually pushing 18,000 residents and growing. Yes. Yeah.
Well, let's just take a little trip down memory lane and explore Ridgefield's history a little bit and the unique story that really shaped the community. So my question is, how did the city really get started, and how did the mills in particular help shape its economy and the culture?
Yes, that's a great question. City was founded in 1909, and has been kind of growing ever since then. If you look at it, it's situated right along Lake River, which is a feeder into the larger Columbia River, and one of the things that happened there, because it was right there, there was a bunch, like you hit the nail on the head, there's several mills that operated on the waterfront for a lot of years, and they would do wood treating throughout that time. In fact, the rhythm of the town really followed the rhythm of the mill for a long time. And in 1993, the last mill that was there shuttered. It went belly up and left us with a whole bunch of creosote in the ground. So there was a lot of contamination there, but prior to that, in the 20th century, if you lived in Ridgefield, chances are you were either worked at the mill or you knew somebody who did work at the mill. It was a small town, but that was really the lifeblood of the local economy there, that and farming. And so when it went belly up in the 90s, I think the town was sort of at this turning point. Like, what was it going to be? What did it want to be? And it sort of, for a long time, for the next decade and a half, it sort of lived there as like this little pocket. Not a lot happening other than the traditional farming, and then all of a sudden it just exploded. And for the larger the reasons that I just explained. Yeah. I mean, it really is an attractive place, and I think people figured that out.
Well, Ridgefield has seen remarkable commercial momentum in all of these years, from Washington's first In-N-Out Burger to the new Costco and the continued expansion at Union Ridge Town Center, which we see really from I-5. And then, of course, just next door, the Cowlitz Indian Tribes, A Resort, which is booming and continuing to grow, all creates more of that regional draw to your community. So at the same time, the city's making major investments investments in infrastructure to prepare for what's ahead. Walk us through these developments and how they position Ridgefield for its next chapter.
Yeah, for sure. Well, certainly, like the notoriety that we get recently over the last year plus has been In-N-Out, and things like Costco coming there, like Washington's first In-N-Out. That was a pretty big deal when it opened last year. I see that more as a byproduct of our growth rather than the thing itself. And I've lived in Ridgefield for about 10 years, so by no means am I a generational resident there like a lot of people that I know, and they'll quickly remind me of that. There's Ridgefield, and then there's residents of Ridgefield. But I was there pre-Ridgefield Rappers. I was there pre-grocery store. When we moved there about 10 years ago, there was no grocery store. I remember moving from East Vancouver, looking around thinking, I got to go where to get groceries? It's how far? Because I was used to having everything at kind of arm's reach. And then that was a catalyst, right? Like the town knew it needed to, it was growing. They had all this residential development. There's not a lot of commercial stuff happening. It knew it needed to transition. And so the city attracted a grocery store. We did a recruitment process to get a grocery store to come here. We recruited Rosauers, and that really started the process. And I think the secret got out, and then suddenly, Costco shows up, right? And I remember when we were recruiting Rosauers, like they'll tell a story about we hired a consultant, we had a binder, we were looking for stores to do that, because and that seems like a small thing to a lot of other bigger communities, but it's a big thing when you live in a small community. And so we had this binder, and we were doing research on these companies. Well, when Costco came in, they came with their own binder on us. And so it was kind of reverse. And from then on, it was just kind of a snowball effect where like I think a lot of places saw what a great place it was. Worth investing in, and it has really been great for our local economy, not just because growth for growth's sake, but also because it's provided the necessary jobs that we need, the services we need, and all of the amenities that I think people have been wanting for a long time to make it a thriving community.
Let's also chat about the grants and the federal funding the city has secured for these projects that really cut the costs for Ridgefield taxpayers. I know you've sought those out.
Yes. Yeah, we do. We, the city wisely invested in a grant writer a couple of years back and has more than brought that return on investment for us. So we get grants. I mean, a lot of cities do. That's part of the process. You apply for state and federal grants, but we have. And so we saw grants. We initially received a grant for the land that our new community and recreation center is going to go on. That was kind of the start of it, and there's other things that have happened recently. Our city council last year knew that public safety was an important increasing demand on our community, but also keeping pace with that growth. And so we enacted what's called a public safety sales tax. It's a 0.1% that will help fund recruitment and retention of new officers. But also, we just recently got a $1.1 million grant to help assist with that. Public safety is a huge component of any community, but for ours, especially in Washington State, where law enforcement officers are in high demand because there's a lot of scarcity there, having that ability to recruit people and to provide a good quality of life is exactly something we're looking for.
Well, Ridgefield has also been really intentional about balancing housing growth with livability. And how is the city approaching that balance? And how does the council really evaluate new developments to ensure it aligns with Ridgefield's long-term strategy?
Yeah, so the tension we wrestle with is that Ridgefield has really more than doubled in size over the last 15 years. I mean, that the growth has been tremendous. I think that even since the pandemic, we've grown over 60%. Right?
Incredible.
Yeah, incredible growth. And, anytime you have that level of growth, you also kind of wrestle with how to manage it and to manage it smartly. I talk a lot about in our city smart growth and needing that. And so it's one thing to build homes, but we didn't want to just build sprawl. We just want to just put homes wherever. So we wanted to thoughtfully plan our city. And one of the things I really appreciate, and I'm by no means taking credit for this at all. We have an incredible city staff, but just the city is exceptionally well planned. There's pockets of commercial neighborhood businesses. There's our downtown area. There is our junction area, what we just talked about, where Costco and In-N-Out are, and all of that serves different needs within the city. The people who commute from out of the city to go to Costco to get their groceries, the people who want to go to the coffee shop or the neighborhood pub or the pizza place in town, those are all really, really important parts of what we do. And any city, you can't just provide one or the other. You have to have a balance of all those things: services, commercial amenities, and a good residential environment. And I think Ridgefield has done exceptionally well doing all three of those things.
I think it has too. And also one of the key factors is the ratio of green space is one that I think is worth sharing with the audience too, because I know that's a big deal. You know, when we make all these major investments in development projects, we want to make sure, especially with residential, that you're just not on top of the next neighbor. And I think that the planning has really shown that you are really intentional about that.
Absolutely. So one of the things that I'm really proud of our city council for having the vision to do was we enacted a parks and open spaces rule. So with all of our new residential development, we'll say 25% of that development has to be dedicated to parks and open spaces. I don't know that there's too many other communities in Southwest Washington, let alone Washington itself, that has that. And what that does is it provides that. So one of the things that we spend a lot of time talking about is our growth, obviously, because we're so fast growing. But a lot of people have some misconceptions about what growth is and why we're growing. And they'll wag their finger at the city and say, "Stop the growth, stop the growth." And like we don't really get the choice to say, "Don't come here," because people are going to come here, right? And with a nationwide housing shortage, we have to be able to accommodate that. But with all of the urbanization that comes with that, we want to make sure that we preserve that quality of life, that unique character and identity that Ridgefield has. And the way we've done that is through parks and open spaces. So we have a pretty in-depth trail network. We have a lot of parks. We're actually hosting like a movie in our newest park. It's called Storybook Hollow this weekend. And it's just a way to celebrate these places that bring people together. And that's what our council have seen as a real necessity. So with every new community we build, we also have parks and open spaces for people to enjoy, and they're all public. They don't belong to that development. They belong to the city for everybody to enjoy from wherever you live.
Love seeing that. Seeing that.
Yeah.
Earlier this year, the City Council invited Ridgefield's residents and neighbors to hear the full presentation of the city's 20-year vision, Envision 2045. So you are really planning all those years ahead. So let's dig into that.
Yeah.
Talk to us about some of the placemaking initiatives that are shaping Ridgefield's future.
Well, so Envision Ridgefield 2045 is our comprehensive plan update. So every city in Washington under the Growth Management Act, it has to do a 20-year forecast every 10 years. So we're at that point. The last time we did was 10 years ago. So we're due. Actually, 2025 was our year, but we're working with the county to kind of finish that up. And we're looking at ways like, okay, what do we got to do to meet the demand for our housing? And that's a huge thing. And then how many jobs do we need to provide? So it looks at things like that. It's a comprehensive plan. We call it that for a reason because it does. It covers environment. It covers trail networks, infrastructure. It covers housing, jobs, all of that stuff. So we are really at the tail end of that right now. And where we've gotten is to say, hey, we want to be able to provide over 1,200 new homes and new areas, over 840 jobs in new areas and expansion areas. That's been sort of a sticking point, like it's just in those expansion areas. Citywide, we're looking at upwards of 5,000 new homes over the next 20 years. And so to accommodate that, the city is supposed to grow by another 10, 11,000 residents by that time. And so we're making investments now to make sure that we preserve our unique way that we have right today.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. And having all of this planned out just gives you the blueprint of what you are imagining for the future, for your families,
Absolutely.
for the families that are going to be coming to your community. Well, stay right where you are. I'm looking at our time. I know that we are just right up next to a break, so there is more to come on Northwest Leaders and Legends with our special guest today, Mayor Matt Cole, from the city of Ridgefield, and we'll be right back after this break. Stay tuned. And now we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. First, we'd like to thank The Soundstage, the Northwest's premier voiceover and self-tape studio equipped with professional industry recording equipment right here in downtown Vancouver. For more information, go to www.thesoundstagenw.com. And we'd also like to take a moment to thank KXRW, Vancouver's own local independent radio station. They're dedicated to delivering quality programming to the Vancouver community and beyond. Tune into KXRW at 99.9 FM or worldwide on the web at kxrw.fm. And we're back from our break with the City of Ridgefield's very own Mayor, Matt Cole. Mayor Cole, let's dig into economic development for a moment. Yes, Ridgefield's economic development strategy is part of the comp plan, and I understand that 20 new businesses were opened in Ridgefield in 2025. And I just would love to know what goals are guiding the city's current plans, and are there shovel-ready sites available for traded sector businesses?
Yeah, so we definitely there are, and especially up towards the junction where there's still a lot to be built out, and really the untapped portion that is zoned for a lot of commercial development is on our east side of town. And so it's so funny how a freeway can create like this divide in a city, even like Ridgefield. But the east side of town has Clark College with their advanced manufacturing facility, which just opened earlier this year, and then we have a lot of new development coming in. There's going to be a lot of new commercial happening right there, which is going to provide a lot of those jobs we talked about. And under our comprehensive plan, I mentioned that in our expansion areas, we have something like, 840 new jobs, but there's going to be over 9,300 new jobs over the next 20 years that happen inside the city alone. And so we're really looking at ways that we can lean into having our own self-sustaining economy while also being part of a regional network of cities and jurisdictions that also are trying to advance their economic development practices.
Really, and looking ahead, to your point, what industries or sectors do you think are best positioned to thrive in Ridgefield, and why?
Yeah, one of the things that we've seen, especially coming out of the pandemic, and we saw a lot. I think a lot of communities saw was really remote work. Right? There's a lot of people who, if you talk to them inside Ridgefield, they work remotely. I'm no exception to that. I've worked remote for like the last 6, 7, or I think even 8 years. And so one of the things that we're doing right now is we're working with developers as we do planned unit developments. We look at saying, hey, how do we provide remote workspaces as well for people to thrive there? So there's a new housing community in Ridgefield. It's called Sandling Park. They just opened like this clubhouse, and within that they have like a business center, I guess is the best way to call it. There's like little desk space. It's not some place to kind of post up and be there permanently, but it's like you can go there and work for the day. There's a little desktop and stuff like that. But I could see more communities like that, something that embraces the nature of where people want to work. So that is in itself industry agnostic, but it is something that I think that a lot of people want. And I think that if you start building communities around that, with that in mind, there's going to be more people who say, this is a place where I want to live because I can work here, I can live here, and I don't necessarily have to play here. Yeah. I'm not tied to going to the office every day. And we don't really want that. I don't want to commute to an office every day, especially if you have to go to Portland or even downtown Vancouver. Like there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I want people to feel like you can be close to home and time to take the kids to practice or go to the gym or whatever you want to do, like to have your quality of life. And so that's one thing we're leaning into right now too.
Or a Raptors game.
A Raptors game.
A Raptors game too.
Yes.
You could have that. So Ridgefield's historic downtown is part of Washington's Main Street program. And how are you all building on that and keeping that historic charm really alive?
Yeah. We have a Main Street program. We're one of 70 cities in the state of Washington to be a Main Street affiliate, and it's a really we need partners like this in Ridgefield especially. What I keep saying is as we launch into a downtown revitalization initiative, it is not just a spreadsheet exercise or a city plan exercise where we look at infrastructure and all those things. Those things are very, very important, but it's a community exercise as well, and you need strong partners like a Main Street program to help you say, what is it that the needs of the businesses that live here, the residents that live here, how do we make this a place where people want to gather? And we're looking at all of that right now.
Yeah. Well, you've got a beautiful blend and a mix of old and new. And so really on the flip side of that, the Port's new waterfront development, Incredible, is also coming together. And really, how do those two pieces, like we said, the old and the new, how do they fit into Ridgefield's story?
Yeah. So like I was talking about, like anytime you have this level of growth, there is a tension that you wrestle with it, and what I'm very clear about telling people is that you will never see a Starbucks or an In-N-Out, and I'm a big fan of both those, right? I go to Starbucks sometimes twice a day, but I don't have anything against Starbucks. But you'll never see those downtown. What we want downtown is to be the shops, and what I've seen is like people want to go visit a historic downtown or a quaint Mayberry type of Main Street downtown community, and they want to get a memento, a token or something like that to remind them of their place there. So I'm interested in like the kitschy shops, and we have a couple of those. We have a shop that just opened up. It's called Toys on Main, and they are so busy, and they're within our floral shop, and that's an incredibly redemptive space as it is, because that was home to 100 plus years. It was a hardware store, and when the hardware store closed last year, I think the community was sort of mourning the loss of that because it was a staple. And in moved this floral shop that also brought in a sputter shop and the toy shop, and there's an art gallery now. It's like this mixed-use space that people can use. And I think that people want a little token to say, remind me of my experience there. And so bringing those types of places downtown, and then the stuff like the big chain restaurants. We have Jersey Mike's opening, I think, this week, which I'm a big fan of Jersey Mike's as well. So things like that, like that. Yes, that is. But that is something that you want to have in different parts of the town. So that's how we sort of balance it, right? You say, there's a place for these things, and then the downtown or the commercial neighborhood businesses are for like the small business owner, the upstart who wants to do something unique, and then leave an impression as a part of that community, not just as a standalone business.
Oh my goodness. And then, of course, you've got this beautiful downtown historic presence that you feel that the minute that you walk into or drive into your downtown area, and then you look and you see this beautiful waterfront that is developing. And so it feels like the Port of Vancouver has gone through their massive development plans for their port. The Port of Kamiswa-Shugal has gone through their development plans, and they are so close, I think, to maybe opening the new phase of their development. Tell us where the Port of Ridgefield's development project is right now, and tell us a little bit about that from a planning perspective.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about the history of the waterfront and when the mill was there, and what that left was a lot of contamination that had to be cleaned up over nearly 30 years, right? $92 million later, through grants from the Department of Ecology, they had to really take out a lot of that dirt and replace the soil there and everything. And so what you see right now is a blank canvas. And the port has, for the better part of the last decade plus, been working on a redevelopment effort and what that's going to look like. They've done a lot of work to get community feedback. But recently, they started to kind of trickle out their plans. And anytime you have that, again, this is the growth that we're wrestling with is that I think there's been a lot of buzz about like, well, what's that going to be? And I think people are concerned of like, if you're going to put those types of things there, is that going to impact the wildlife refuge, which is just across Lake River? Is that going to impact traffic? People are very concerned about the traffic because you have to take Pioneer Street to go down to the waterfront. And so there's, I think, a lot of legitimate concerns that residents have vocalized over the last couple of months. And so there's some ongoing conversations about what does the community expect? What do they want? And I think what we're really asking ourselves right now is, what kind of Ridgefield do we want to be, like not just now, but 20 years from now, or even further than that? And do we want it to be a place that it remains vibrant, that's a gathering place, or do you want it to kind of stay as is? I'd argue that we want it to be a place where people can share that with us. And so, one of the things that I think a lot of people, there's two things that I've heard a lot of that people talk about is a hotel. They said, we don't want a hotel down there, and we don't want, and what they call is, I've heard it is, quote, low-income housing, right? Now, those are both hard propositions for different reasons. On the hotel front, I'm not sure what I think about a hotel down there either, mainly because of the impacts to traffic and the flow down there. But what I am interested in is, how do we get more things that are going to make downtown an attractive place? I'm far more interested in our downtown as far as the scope of my role than I am in the waterfront. And if it takes a hotel that maybe that would give people a place to stay and a reason to come downtown and stay there, I'm interested in that conversation, but I want to make sure that we preserve what the unique aspects of that. As far as the housing, we haven't zoned it for housing. The Port of Ridgefield has kind of proposed it, said, hey, we can put some housing in there. I don't think it's low-income housing by any means. I think it's affordable housing. But when we're facing a million home shortage in our state for housing alone, I think that's a conversation worth having as well. And I don't know how we get there just yet, because everything are sort of conceptual plans at this point. But I think we're going to get there.
Yeah.
So.
Well, let's talk about Ridgefield and it's carving its own identity out for itself. We talked so much about a standout place to live and to work and to play. And how do you really see the city leaning into that that vision, that differentiating itself against really maybe some of the other communities here in Clark County and Southwest Washington? What do you think is the defining difference?
The defining difference, I think, really is the amenities that we are providing. That we are, like, again, going back to that parks and open spaces rule. I'm really big on parks development inside the city, as is the rest of our council. I want to see places that are accessible to all people, all abilities. And that's been a big point. Having trails that people can navigate. We're like a lot of communities right now are talking about e-bikes and things like that. And so like those are a mode of transportation I think that are here to stay. And so we're trying to figure out how do we accommodate that through a maybe more robust trail network that allows for things like maybe e-bikes or bicycles, not just hiking or walking trails, right? So things like that. Access to nature, like you hear people talk about that all the time. It's a selling point, right? And we do have the refuge. We do have access points to things like Mount St. Helens and the greater, like the greater landscape that we enjoy here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. So we want to be able to provide those amenities for people and give them access to that as well. So it's all things like that. And then we have things like the Raptors, right? Which is like, I think we get something like almost 2,000 people a night when across 30-something home games a season. And it's more than just a baseball game. I love going because it's a place to connect with neighbors. And we do that. I'm going to do it tonight, right? Like you go there and you sit there and you converse and you catch up with people. Sometimes I forget that I'm not even watching a baseball game because I'm talking to people about things that are going on in the city. So those are the types of things that bring people together. And I think when you do that, that's how you build healthy community. And that's the kind of stuff that I get really excited about, more than just like my role in public policy, but also in community development.
You can feel that, and your community can feel that from you. An exceptional leader with just a passion for his community. And I do want to kind of wrap us up this way, Mayor Cole. Let's talk about the RISE initiative, the Revitalize, Invest, Sustain, and Enhance, and what it means for belonging in Ridgefield. Why is this initiative so important to the community, and how do you see it shaping your leadership and the legacy you hope to leave as mayor?
Absolutely. So Jill, I think that when you look at communities and you say, well, what are the things that bring people together? What is the thing that sort of creates this like centralized identity of any community? And what we kept coming back to was it's downtown. Yeah. That is who we are. That is who we've been. That's where we're going. So we want to it's one of we have 7 council goals. One of those goals is preserving downtown. And so when we were looking at that last year, we were come up with an initiative. We're saying, you know what? It's more than just street lighting. It's more than parking. It's more than accessibility. It's all of those things and, right? And so I imagine things like things that are just empty alleyways right now that turn into pedestrian pathways. I look at ways that are like storefronts that bring people together, bakeries, restaurant places, things like that. We have the art gallery. We have Overlook Park and a splash pad. We have a new skate park there. All those types of things are what bring people together. And that's the kind of thing that excites me. So that's what the downtown initiative is about. And again, it's more than just a master planning exercise. It's how do we engage the community in that? How do we bring them along with us? And how do we make this a place that is long-term sustainable, that honors who we are and where we've been, and also provides a pathway to where we're going. And I think that's where the waterfront development is so important. I think that's why we look at downtown as more than just a singular exercise. It's more of an ongoing thing. And so I'm really excited about that because it will be, I think, a legacy. I think what we do now, we're at this turning point, right? Each generation has an opportunity to shape what their community looks like. This will be our footprint.
Mayor Cole, we are right here in peak season in the Pacific Northwest, and especially in Washington State. So for those that are traveling anywhere around our state, make sure that you have a chance to stop by Ridgefield and see for yourself the investment, the activities, the gathering, all the food, the bev, the events, all the things that make Ridgefield its very own special place to be. And on behalf of Northwest Leaders and Legends, we are thrilled that you carved out time in your schedule to be with us today.
Absolutely.
I thank you so very much. And to all of you that are watching our show, thank you for joining us. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow, and tell a friend about our show so that we continue to bring this content to you. And from us to you, we're sending warm Northwest wishes your way to your communities. A special thank you to Michael Sarno, our producer, who makes every single episode possible. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll have another special guest on the way. And until then, thanks so much for watching. Bye for now. Thank you for spending a bit of your day with us today, and I hope today's show brought insight and value to you. You can find Northwest Leaders and Legends across our platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and on our radio at KXRW 99.9 FM. We're also on Patreon, where you can explore extended interviews with our special guests. If you enjoyed our content and want to stay connected, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Those small actions make a huge difference in helping us reach more people and strengthen our community. We'll be back soon with another special guest and meaningful conversations about the people and ideas shaping the Northwest economy. And until then,